Now you can log in now. Yeah. Thanks. Bye-bye. See you. Yep. Bye-bye. That's cool.
I got it.
Okay.
I see it. All right. So what did it, as it turned out?
I couldn't tell you why. I couldn't tell you why.
It just.
But here we go.
Tries.
We're gonna do the intros here.
All right.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and I'm at the Astronomical League convention here in Albuquerque, the 2022 edition. So we've had several people come on live with us, and today we also have Adrian Bradley, who is coming in live from
Michigan.
Michigan, that's right. So anyhow, Adrian, thanks for sharing with us and being part of Alcon.
All right, it's my pleasure. As a long time, well, maybe not long time, Astronomical League member, it's good to be actually participating remotely. I know we had some technical difficulties, but Scott, you methodically went through and tried everything until it finally worked, and that's what science is all about. And so it wasn't a problem waiting, and it's nice to be able to participate as an Astronomical League member. So I asked myself, what would I like to present? Real quick introduction for myself. I am a landscape astrophotographer, or nightscaper as it's seen. The picture behind me, this beautiful image that we all know and love of Stephan's quintet, and the imaging of the galaxies in mostly infrared and other spectrums. I have a camera that can do some of that spectrum, but not to the scale level of detail or the location of James Webb, but still we get some detail that we can't see with our eyes, and we present it using a camera. We present it in our landscape astrophotography images. There's a few different types of landscape astrophotographers. Myself, I come from an astronomy background, so we all like to shoot the Milky Way. Well, when you shoot the Milky Way, you can have a very pleasing image, but I like to go up and down the Milky Way as an astronomer and see, did I capture some of the nebula that are along the plane, especially of the core? And I'll get to that in a minute. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I am also good friends with the gentleman that you see in the picture. That's definitely not a Milky Way shot, but I wanted to share some of these images. Professor Kareem Jaffer had the opportunity to visit Dr. David Levy at an Adirondack retreat, and so he took a few pictures and he wanted me to share them, and so I'm doing that. That's Dr. Levy, and that is the David Levy Observatory at the Adirondack Astronomy Retreat. It's a beautiful area. And so just real quickly, we'll go through. He's greeting David, as we call him, greeting visitors to the observatory. This is Professor Kareem's daughter, Tara, inside the observatory. And there's the telescope. I forget the name.
That is an LX200. I don't, but David names all of his telescopes.
Yeah, he does. And yes, it is an LX200. Here's Kareem with David as people are accessing and see, there you go, meet LX200.
Right.
Ironic enough, when I set up my telescopes for observing, we have a formerly a solar telescope, and we converted it to a night sky telescope, the McMath, which used to be in Lake Angeles, here in Michigan, and for a long time it was a part of the believe it was the McMath Observatory, and it was used for solar work. And one of my astronomy clubs now is its caretaker at its new location on Peach Mountain in Dexter / Pinckney, Michigan. It's a heavy instrument and a historical instrument. Here we have David's LX200, which looks like they're demonstrating how it works. And there's the whole telescope.
Oh.
For an observatory, you generally having a lot of space around the observatory, and then building your dome and putting a telescope capable of viewing, good night sky objects. You have a Telrad here and a finder. And then a good tracking computer, which most of the mounts are built to do that. And you can go observing through the night. This LX200 is what, about a 14-inch, or is it even smaller than that? It looks like it's 14. But so just a couple more pictures, and there's David and Tara. Tara is a member of the let's see, Kareem sent me. Yeah, she's from the Cosmic Generation, the group of young amateur astronomers, young kids who love astronomy, who have formed a group. And Tara is one of the members of that group, and they essentially have their own national astronomy club, and it's a beautiful thing. So let's I opened up by talking about the nightscapes and the precision within nightscapes, which a lot of times when you're looking at beautiful pictures that include the Milky Way, the precision of the Milky Way isn't necessarily an issue that people will worry about. And so as I look at my notes, so here's how much attention, the question I posed was, how much attention do we pay to the stars and the scenes? We'll put up, this is a scene that I took recently, single shot, and for most, it's gonna look, it's a lakeshore. There's a lakeshore house, and then you have what becomes an all too familiar look at the galactic center. When you do a lot of Milky Way photography. But from an astronomy standpoint, there are a number of things that may or may not show up in these images. One of the first is the representation of the Lagoon Nebula here. Most images will show the Lagoon Nebula, M8, but like this one, it barely has any reference to M20, which is the Trifid. In other images I'll show, you'll see that show up a little bit more. Over here near Sagittarius, there's this dot right here that actually represents M22. That's actually a globular cluster that appears to be resolving as a star. You've got M17, M16, and M23. And then I would have to look this up. I believe this may be also an object. And recently, where my hand is now, that's M11, the wild duck. And so the precision, especially when you noise reduce I've done noise reduction for this image. So the precision of the image starts to fade a little bit, even though when you zoom out, you see a beautiful image. This is essentially the view I wanted to present when I finished taking the photo. And of course, it's a favorite area of mine to image, where light pollution, and I'll often leave it in. I mean, there's a bright source of light coming from where I believe is Port Huron, down the lake. Over this way, if you were here and you looked over here, you would see light pollution from the Detroit area. So it's a nice dark little site, but light pollution does abound. So we'll examine a few shots and we'll take a look at just how clear did I get them. This was also noise reduced, but it was a 2-minute exposure. With longer exposures, you get more data, which is why a lot of landscape astrophotographers love to shoot longer exposures in order to get more detail out of their overall Milky Way shot. But you can see just how much detail you got by looking at your signs. The stars of Sagittarius are here. This happens to be Nunki, which is one of the brighter stars in sort of the handle of the Milk Dipper. And there's M22 again. And you can see a little more light around it. You can see that you got there's a little more detail. And with the camera that I have, modified to allow hydrogen alpha light and give it a more pinkish color. And that's why you'll see that hydrogen alpha light show up, whereas some images you may not see that light. You can tell if the imager shot with a modified camera, if these nebulae have a pink look surrounding them. Here's M23 again. Here's the Sagittarius star cloud. We'll find out what that is. That'll be an exercise for myself. This nebula, this star cluster also shows up. Down below, you have the butterfly and Ptolemy's cluster, and there's even more that's being washed out here underneath the sky. So, and then how bright is the wild duck? In this string of stars, the wild duck is going to have the most luminance in any shot. So there are a lot of things that you can use. You might look at your image and say, this looks pretty sharp. This looks pretty pristine. You can test yourself and say, how pristine did I get it? By looking and seeing if you got detail in these small nebulae. The larger your focal length, the easier it will be for you to get detail in your nebulae. So let's pick a couple of shots. And I want to go into what I captured for June. One thing that I like to check is if I shoot far enough along the plane of the Milky Way, I can look for a particular thing called Barnard E. It's a dark nebula that sits near Tarazed and Altair. I did not catch it here. So then as far as checks for how detailed it is, you zoom in, you see, we're seeing the same nebulae, but and even in here you see a little L shape or a swan shape, that you've got some pretty good detail. That's M17, the Omega Nebula. And in M16, I have yet to take an image with a wide field lens that shows any hint of the dark lanes and pillars of creation in M16. With a long exposure, a lot of people like to expose the Rho Fuyuki. section here. And this is another globular cluster, M4, which is a part of that, part of that complex. So people will focus on this. You get some real beautiful, the reds coming off of Antares, and then Rho Ophiuchi itself. There's some blue emission nebula there that I did not capture in my short exposure. When you're shooting a landscape, you typically don't shoot too long an exposure. It's something worth going for, but depending on if you're just getting the look of the Milky Way, which most of us are, we'll forego some of the detail. And here you have an example of, I got more of the Milky Way in. This is one of my favorite scenes to shoot. It's another beachfront, but it's a wider beach. It's a little further up the thumb of Michigan. And once again, we can do our checks.
Terry Mann from the Astronomical League is watching the replay of this, and she really loves this image. I do too. It's very serene, and the composition is very
with
nice.
Clouds. Yeah, never. All you landscape astrophotographers out there, and I know Terry knows this, she's put some beautiful shots together with clouds in them. Sometimes the clouds create a type of scene with the Milky Way that turns out well. We all want this
dark
core
clouds
to be fully visible.
Clouds. Yeah.
We all shoot for this and put it in a scene, but there's some creativity we can do to present the Milky Way in a few different lights that that you see it ties in together with the scene. I've had the photographers tell me that I did well with the leading lines leading towards this area where Sagittarius is and where the Milky Way comes over, and then talk about the geometric shape I formed with the Milky Way and with the shoreline. And the photographer, I'll say professional and very serious photography enthusiasts are all taught to try and incorporate those in photos. And for me, I think it's just, I kind of see it and I shoot it and may not realize that I'm incorporating all of that from just having taken a class that talks about the different aspects of a good photo. To me, if it pulls you in the shot and you kind of feel like you're standing there, to me that's a good photo. And but it's probably my least precise photo, because we had a little star trailing here. This is the region that I'll be talking about, this Barnard's E, and I didn't quite shoot far enough to get the coat hanger. I'm going to show a few more images where I captured enough of the Milky Way to get to this Barnard's E dark nebula, and you'll see, depending on the precision, how sharp and how well my tracking was, how that's going to look. And for me, it's another really good tell of if I took a good shot. Here's a wild duck, and you can't really tell it apart from any of the other stars. It's got a little bit of more of a glow to it. Visual astronomers would see it and say, oh, that's different. That doesn't look like a typical star. One of the dashes over here are all stars, but this, has a particular glow to it. But if you didn't know any better, you'd just think it was another star. So not all of your Milky Way images are precise, but can still be beautiful. And
Adrian, this shot of the beach too brings to mind the Astronomy on the Beach event. I think you're going to be at that. Is that right?
Yes, the Astronomy on the Beach. The Astronomy on the Beach event we're having here in Michigan, September, I think 17th and 18th. Mm-hmm. And it'll, I think we used this image, but the actual beach is Island Lake Recreation Park in a lot more light polluted area than this. But I believe we're using a piece of this as a logo for our astronomy on the beach. So yes, and we're also going to be, we may be looking for more speakers. I'm actually on the board for that. So I think we should move it to this beach myself. I think it'd be way more rewarding to have astronomy on the beach here in Deckerville on this beach. I think it would be awesome, but I'll have to talk to the board about that one.
That's right.
But yeah, that's definitely. So we'll do a few other shots, and let's see this one again using, I think this was actually before moonrise, and it's the same angle, same beach, but I came up off of the actual shorefront and now I'm overlooking the park. And precision a little bit better as far as round stars, and the wild duck looks different, vastly different from the other stars around it, even though the Milky Way itself isn't quite as sharp, and you've got the water, but you know, you've got other objects. So there's always kind of the interplay between a beautiful looking picture. Pictures are always up for interpretation, but I would say that my tracking, if I looked at this image from a technical standpoint, my tracking and my my image acquisition for the Milky Way itself was a little bit better. But you know, the overall image, and this is Saturn down here, this bright dot right there. So a couple of images I'll always be proud of and kind of show off when I actually did. I got some precise, I got pretty precise here. There's some Trifid isn't quite there. I've got a photo showing where I got more of the Trifid with a 35 millimeter lens. This is 16, and M23 star cloud, a little bit more, although it fuzzes out right here. Every image has a point at which you start to lose a little bit of the detail. Up here, there's Altair, Tarzed, there's the Barnard E image. So this was taken with my Canon camera. If I zoom all the way back out, I took another image and tried to meet the colors to be a little more realistic, so you can see the sky glow and everything here. And in this image, about the same precision, and it's going to be the same look. We go up here, we've got some other star clusters to figure out what they are.
All right.
And there's Barnard E.
It's good.
Yep, you can see Barnard E. You can, oh, I just missed the coat hanger, but now I'm going to show you what I was able to pull off. I decided to go ahead and take this image with my Sony mirrorless 60 millimeter image or camera. And now this one, I'm in a Bortle 3 to Bortle 2 zone here. So I got this camera is not modified. And there's M22. You can see that it got a little more precise, even as I noise reduced it. I should find the one where I didn't do the noise reduction, because there may even be more detail that I lost doing that noise reduction. You can see that there's some pretty good detail, and even the wild duck is taking a little bit of shape. And when you go and you look, you see the dark nebulae, there's some crispness about it. These clusters here, even though the tracking wasn't as good because the stars are sort of oblong shaped, look at how well the Barnard E turned out. And then I know I have the coat hanger up here. Here's a coat hanger, and you can see the different star colors. So that told me if I dial the focus in, I can get a really good image with that camera. And so I've begun to use it more in my imaging. This is the scene when I pointed north. I turned it around and I could not see the aurora, but it was certainly here. There's the double cluster. And look, you're resolving a few stars in the double cluster. Unfortunately, the heart and soul don't show up as well because this isn't the modified camera. But when you're resolving some stars as a part of a star cluster, you know that you're getting some pretty good precision in your focus. And that's the sort of thing I like to see, Scott, when I do my imaging. Is I like to see light from stellar objects.
Oh yeah.
And almost being able to resolve them with a 16 millimeter lens.
Right.
I believe someone pointed out
that the green cast that I see up there, that's all air glow, right?
Yeah, it is.
Pretty.
And this light here, even though it doesn't look it, that's M51 A and B. Again,
right.
when I noise reduce it, it sort of ruins it ruins things. But there's the light from M51 is in that photo right there.
Wow.
I pull back. It shows up. Alcade. I don't know what that star is, but that's kind of the old star hopping. I go through my images and I'll start star hopping to see if I find things. So one thing I have to do yet, if there's still time, is to capture comet pan stars. If I shoot in the correct direction, I should be able to get light representing comet pan stars 2017 in the photo. And let's see, now we'll jump to May, and we'll jump to my most precise photo, which was a runner-up. And I'm going to compare this photo to images I took at Okie-Tex. This is taken here in Michigan. This is light from the prawn. And this is what I like to look for when I see a Milky Way photo and I see the core. And a lot of times you'll see some processing where some of this detail, and especially the stars that are all around here, the stars get pulled out because of the way that the program is, the program that's used will, landscape astrophotographers will strip the stars, really take them out, so that all you have is kind of this galactic center. For me, the stars also tell the story. There's lots of them there. That's what it's all
about.
And there, I let the Girl Scouts find. I said, "Can you find a butterfly and a cat's paw?" And I showed them this image. Most of them found the butterfly right away, and that happens to be the butterfly cluster. Yeah. I think M6. And there's the cat's paw. This is something that I never thought was imageable this far north, because I first saw it in images I took at Okie-Tex. I've never gotten a very good lobster claw, but I do have some light from it. This was as good as I've gotten from here. And I didn't even get that good a shot on the lobster claw when I was in Okie-Tex. But those 4 stars are your key to where the lobster claw is. And then the cat's paw, and even this nebulosity here belongs to the Prawn Nebula. So whenever you can see images, clusters, these are, I think they call them the cat's eyes, or the stinger of the scorpion. We're seeing almost a full scorpion here, but
it's kind of curving around.
Yep, there it goes, curving around. But the haze got it. I wonder if with this exposure, if I'd have gotten a little more row for you.
Isn't it interesting though, how you can see the color of the star maybe a little bit better, just because there is a thin layer of haze there.
Yes. Yes, I
You
agree.
can see that channel.
Hmm. It's like it's like a filter almost. It's like a free filter in the sky. When there's haze,
Yeah,
there are things you can do to really highlight the stars.
right.
And so we come back. So two globulars here. There's M4. You can almost see the shape of M4 in this shot. And M22, which is a more rounded globular. And it's there's a couple of stars and then that bright core.
Mhm.
So there's the lagoon, and you can see dust lanes here. And you can see where the cluster, there's a bright cluster here, it's a bright cluster of stars there, and you can see the shape of the lagoon. Now, of course, with a larger instrument, you get a lot more detail, but this
Sure.
is 35 millimeters, and we've got some pretty good detail here. This is the Trifid that I was
Oh
talking
yeah, you
about.
can
And look,
see
there
the
go the
blue
dust lanes of the
reflection
Trifid.
nebula.
Yep.
Yep, in the H alpha
So
region.
so yeah, I missed on the emission, the emission nebula here and the other emission nebula, missing out on that because I do believe it's emitting some of that light in the spectrum that we can't see on the other side, the shorter, bluer sides. And there's still a filter in my camera for that. So I would have to expose longer to get that blue that we're all familiar with on top of the Trifid, or expose in a darker site where more of that light is being presented to the camera. So there's M23. You can see the shape of M23, Sagittarius star cloud, which my processing doesn't do it enough justice. There is a cluster in here that does not show up to my liking, but it's still things to go. I thought I was looking at M29, but I'm not. I am 29. I believe is further along in Cygnus. But that's kind of what M29 looks like. It's just a few stars that just kind of have this nuclear shape. So I'll have to check that to see what that really is. Here you've got the shape of the swan for visual observers looking at the Omega Nebula, also known as the Swan Nebula. I still don't have, I got something here, but the dust lanes that are kind of in the center where the famous pillars of creation, and I don't quite see those either. And I think I just caught before the edge of the photo the wild duck. Barely see it right here. You can see its shape. It's an open cluster, but it sure looks like it doesn't quite resemble a globular when you look compared to a globular here. Doesn't It resembles it a little bit, but it does show that it's a little more open. They're looser, more loosely packed group of stars. But you may not resolve stars exactly, but you resolve shapes. So to me, when you talk precision in Milky Way, one of the things that you're trying to go for when you go for accuracy, those are the things that you can do to test how accurate a capture of the Milky Way is. Now, if I do this and then I do a great shot of the mountain somewhere, I have a photo that's not only beautiful to the eye, but extremely accurate in terms of astronomy. And that is sort of what I would like to go for. So let's really quick, let's show. This was an image. I reprocessed it a little to make the sky different, but this was an award winner for light pollution category. And
It's beautiful.
yeah, two different types of light pollution here, different colors, and my camera picked it up. You can see how the clouds catch light pollution and sort of reflect it. So the sky, if you're distant, the sky above it is a little clear, and that's where the plane of the Milky Way galaxy is. I don't know what I caught here. Are they sprites? There's an artifact. It sure looks like a sprite. If it is,
Yeah, that's what you said. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Zoom in tighter. Oh, that is a sprite for sure.
I caught a sprite.
I believe so.
Those are hard to.
I have a
Those are very hard to
meteorologist
catch.
friend that can look at that, in more detail for you. But yeah, I think you did.
I believe, yeah, I caught a sprite, which is
that's hard.
It's very hard to do and makes this photo that much more rare because I definitely wouldn't have seen that as I was hunched down over here by the rocks taking the photos. This is where we're supposed to stand, and this is where my adventurous self came to the shoreline to take the photo. The beach that I was at when I first started showing some of the images is maybe a little further around the bend and somewhere in an area where I've got my cursor.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that other secluded beach is. And this looks like a hill. There's a tall hill and an opening where you see the lake. Of course, if you come down, cool. You can see the whole lake nice. Here, but there's an opening off of a highway that runs along this side. I
like the reflections off the stones in the foreground, even into the water, and I can tell it's a longer exposure, the movement of the water.
Yeah.
So and very
that
cool.
Happened to catch some of that. There weren't a lot of big waves, but I can see where you're saying, Scott, and I captured some of the movement of the water there. So that some images end up turning out, and you never know what you'll capture when you're out at night and you're taking these images. So there's magic.
There's a lot going on there. This is the whole universe right there.
Yeah, there's magic to be had, and even these clusters here, which we'll get the names of.
Yeah.
And M20, so how bright M23 is, and M8, every single shot I've taken, regardless of how I've processed it, light from those images shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was sure looks like I think you're right. It could be a sprite. I always thought you'd see those if there were thunderstorms, but apparently not always. So I will begin to wind down my portion by showing what can happen when your images are firebound. First, I want to show this one. So talking precision, I was talking to a gentleman when I took this. Now, this was a 100-second, was it a 70-second exposure? So they walked out of the observatory with lights. And instead of getting ghosts of people, I just ended up getting a ghost of this. But what I was doing it for is because I knew where the Milky Way was. It was hazy and it was cloudy. And here's how I can tell that I've got elements of it in. There's M8. There's a little bit of light from M20. There's M23. The Sagittarius star cloud doesn't show up well, but M17 and M16 do. And so there's Barnard E right there next to Altair and Tarzed right here. As for the coat hanger, well, there it goes, looming pretty large in this image. As I zoom in, you can see it, and then I zoom out, you can still see it. And a lot of the images that I like to take, I tend to like having the coat hanger in it. I don't know what I caught here. It could be an artifact, a streak, or it could have, most meteors I capture, you can kind of tell they're meteors.
You
streaks. And
just
I know
never know
this is
what you're going to
plain.
get when you do these kinds of nightscapes. You know, I mean,
You
there's just
never know. And
stuff going
even
on.
if it's cloudy like this, you just never know.
Yeah,
So you go ahead and you take the shot.
it's cool.
And yeah, so even when it's murky out, sometimes taking the longer exposure you take of the sky, and I do like the precision because I did get some pretty sharp stars here. And it makes all the difference. The sharper we get our stars, the more information we can pull out, even in murky skies like this. Even if there's a marker in our sensor that we need to clean at some point, we still get a lot of data. And we can also have our work firebombed literally by fireworks. So
That's
here's
cool.
someone was shooting fireworks over here. And this is one of the images that I tried to time it so that I'd get I'd get the fireworks without a lot of light, so I could still expose.
What is the kind of streak of reflection on the water right
Saturn,
there?
I think this is Saturn right here. It's
Oh, I see.
starting to
Look at
crunch in a
that.
bit, but yeah, Saturn was bright enough to cast a shadow on the water.
Yeah, that's cool.
And there it is. Even it's at that part of in that part of the sky, it's looking more a little bit like dashes, but yep, that is Saturn. And I think I have it again. This was an earlier image. Fireflies here, and
Well,
can't
check
really
that
see
out.
Saturn. Yep, there's a trail of
Straight up
fireworks
to the Milky Way. It's
yep,
cool.
there's the galactic center, and oh, we still have the butterfly and Ptolemy's cluster here. There's yeah, we washed out M8, but we didn't wash out M23. Oh, we didn't wash out M8. It's right there. And then there's M23. So even with the man-made fireworks, you can still see a lot of detail as long as you have good precision. And you can even still see Barnard Z right here. If nothing else, looking for different areas of the Milky Way are ways to determine just how sharp your imaging is, and the more precise we can get it, the more detail we might uncover. So if there's a comet, that green glow of that comet might show up. And so here, an imprecise shot of the moon rising while the Milky Way is still visible. I took
like
a
that
few
too.
of these,
Look
and
at
I think this, in fact, I believe I tried to line it up with a couple of, I tried to stack those shots together and ended up with a bit of a miss. But the wild duck is still showing shape and is bright right
Now,
here.
are those satellites that I see going through?
I believe so. I believe I had satellites just sort of photobombing the shot as it went. Now a cleaner image, I thought I left one in here. Here's a cleaner image of moonrise. Milky Way barely going. This is a little more true to what the human eye sees. You can barely see any of this, and when you do it in a picture, you get a little bit of the structure, and you get a plane too. You can barely, one of the stars of Sagittarius is gone here. I think this is good old Nunky right here, and it's still around. Pluto's actually in here somewhere, but so you didn't have much chance on a night like this because you had what I call the late full moon, 97% waning gibbous rising. We still weren't out of astronomical twilight yet, and this was about as good as it was going to get. As you can see, the dome of influence of the moon's light reaching out And this is a moment in time where Milky Way is being washed out, and there's nothing can be done but to enjoy the moonrise. So I shot at it, and there's a moonrise on a composite photo showing the moon the way we see it with our eyes, and some detail of the lake. So we don't stop shooting just because the Milky Way is gone. And even if we try, we go back to that beach and we just try for a moonrise shot, trying something different. The stars are all out of focus because I decided to focus in on the rocks. This is more of a photographer's photo, not much to do with astronomy. So you toe the line sometimes when you do both. You sometimes say, I think this will look better as a photography shot. I had come back to take the photo of the Milky Way on the ground, and that's why the rocks are where they are here. And then to my horror, I saw the fireworks, but not all was lost. I accidentally took a picture of just the Milky Way, and still came out with a pretty good shot. There's Barnard Z and the coat hangers right there. I thought that was decent. And then I'll leave you all with this final image of the beach house. I think this may have been where I started, where you have the beach house, you have a bit of noise. I think I've done some processing since. This was a beach house where the fireworks were coming from. I came at a different angle, and they had stopped shooting the fireworks. So, and we're past astronomical twilight, so we've got we got true darkness in the sky, but of course light pollution, which is behind the terrestrial stuff.
That's
So
right. And
never
that,
really
that
gets
streak
fully
again
dark.
in the water, Adrian, is that
This reflection.
yes, on the left.
Oh,
Extreme,
there's Saturn right there.
still against Saturn.
Yep.
Okay.
And then these are trails, some of the stars.
That part's very cool.
Yep. Some of the stars reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
I would be remiss if I didn't go. I had planned on going at a global star party, global star party 69 to be exact. I had decided to, if I can find it, I'm not sure I can, but I had decided to share images. I think I have them here. I have some of them here that I want to share. This one, let's see if I cut off. Nope, I didn't. This was a 1-minute image in a fairly deep Bortle 2 zone. And you can see how Barnard Z showed up. And a lot of stars here around the coat hanger. But and this is before I had some of the tools that I use now to post process, and it was with the camera before it was modified. So yeah, that's why this it's faded, but it still looks like a pretty magnificent image. I tried to find this region again and shoot, knowing what I know now, but I'll have to wait till next year around that time when I can do that. And I don't, let's see, this is Okitex. I want to find a slightly different image where, let's see, that's GSP 96. You can see I started creating GSP folders based on what I was going to share at Global Star Party. And I'm looking for the 69th. GSP. Oops. The 69th Global Star Party is where I shared a lot of images from Okie-Tex. And this one, this is why I thought the cat's paw and the lobster claw were only visible. I got a little more shape of the lobster here. We're only going to be visible from Okie-Tex because
it just looks like the center part of the Milky Way is exploding off the horizon.
Yes, there's a horizon.
It's cool.
There's the cross, and this was a panorama that I wish I had used the same precision for the rest of it that I used for the core. This region, I ended up getting a really good and precise shot. The software knew to tie it to the rest of this, but I didn't quite get the precision. My stars are bloated, and as a result, it's a tale of two shots that, of course, Okie-Tex, I plan on going again and giving this another shot, knowing what I know now. And I do believe this was only 1 minute, if I'm not mistaken, per image. And you can see it's a lot more detail in the cat's paw and the lobster claw than I had. Everything else disappears. There are the stingers. This cluster comes in. There's the giant, now it looks giant, M7 Ptolemy's cluster. And you can see the beauty of, you can resolve the beauty of the butterfly cluster. So this is what dark skies, and I don't know if it's still Bortle 1. I think it's actually classified as a high Bortle 2 at Okie-Tex now. I saw a reclassification that gave the appearance of the Milky Way and appearance of M33 to a really high Bortle 2 and left Bortle 1 for absolute black or absolute dark. So like over the Atlantic Ocean dark. So it's still spectacular to see the Milky Way come out. And here you go, there where I was able to get the reflection nebula that's on top of M20. I wasn't able to get dust lanes though. My precision, the lens I was using made it, I forget what it was. It was an L lens, but it was an older L lens. And with the one that I have now, I would love to give this a shot because I think I might get those dust lanes and I might get some more detail in this combination here. We got the dust lane here in the middle of M8. So of course, and see, this is where the panorama fails. There's M23, but it was a part of the not so well tracked portion of my panorama. So the whole thing sort of dies right here. So we don't get to see more detail within the star cloud or the M17 here. And it's a bit of a shame because this was starting out so productive. But those are the challenges that I face. And not all photos are always as good. A long while ago, I took this photo and you can see the precision isn't there, but the enthusiasm was. And several images later, we're still at it. And precision doesn't stop with just the core. I can work on, if I work on my precision, then when Cygnus sets, that can be a really nice image that I may be able to get. And if you're a follower of Skies Up magazine, you've seen this image because it's on Skies Up, I think a couple of months back. Terry, I saw you there. How you doing? Good to see you. And with this, I think it's about time to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Scott. But thank you for letting me present some images here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being a part of Alcon.
Yes, I'm officially part of Alcon. Yeah, it feels good to help and contribute in some sort of way. And hopefully.
Yeah. Hold on for a second, Adrian. Terry would like to say something.
I don't know. I don't need to be on camera, but thank you.
It's okay, Terry.
Oh, there I am anyway. It is such a pleasure to have you at Alcon. We really appreciate it, and your work is beautiful.
Thank you, Terry. Coming from someone who knows how to put beautiful images together, that is a high compliment. So thank you so much for that. And one of these days I have to get all my money together so I can be in person at one of these events, or if it's in Michigan. Yes. I would love to come out.
I'm going to have to look at your astronomy on the beach. I'd like to come up there sometime.
That would be awesome. Well, we may hit you up for a quick little talk if you come out, but it's definitely, when it's going, it's a good time. The skies aren't perfect, but there's lots of people with telescopes, and there's lots of people that we get to educate about astronomy, and it becomes a great time.
Oh, I bet.
Even radio astronomers tend to come out and set things up. So it's yes, please do. And I'll definitely let the board know that we've generated some interest.
Okay, well, thank you for being at Alcon, Adrian.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, so we are
oops, I'll go ahead and leave now and let you.
Thanks a lot.
I'll see you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you very much. So starting tomorrow, we'll have more Alcon live presentations here from the Astronomical League convention here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And until that time, you guys have a good night, and thanks very much for tuning in.